hello, good evening. Welcome everyone to Mamaliez show, Behind Closed Door Stories. It's about sharing of behind closed door stories, inspiring stories, and with unconditional love and respect. And today I have a very special guest. I'm very honored to have her. And today you will hear behind closed door stories from this very special woman that I met in New York City. But before I share with you and introduce her who she is, I just want to share with you what we're going to have tomorrow. Tomorrow we're going to have our financial health series where Mama this wants to learn, which is my guest will be Jonas here, and we're going to talk about emotional versus practical investment in property. So tomorrow, please come join us tomorrow at 4 o'clock. And today, let's me bring forward to Surina Shukri. So she is currently the CEO of MDEC, and she's also an equal opportunities advocate. She is in world most influential revolutionizing governance list. She's a breast cancer advocate, an angel investor, and mother of three. Well, let me tell you, this amazing woman, I had the honor to meet her when I was living in New York City. And at that time, I was really admiring her. She's really living the Sex in the City lifestyle. Okay, like you saw in the movies. That's the life living near the Central Park. All that. Yeah. So I was like, oh my God, how did this woman do it? She worked in the Wall Street. Not many Malaysians, not only a woman, but Malaysian woman work in Wall Street. Okay, how did she do it? So that's why today you will hear her story from the start, how her childhood is until today, that what brought her back home to our country. Now, please welcome Surina Shukri. Hi, Surina.
Hi, good evening. It's
Good
so good to
evening.
do this.
Good to see you too, Surina. Thank you so much for joining us today.
My
Now, can you
pleasure.
Yeah. Maybe you can tell a little bit introduction about you, a short introduction about you.
Well, you said a lot already, but basically, my day job right now is I run Malaysia Digital Economy Corporation (MDEC), and for those who are not familiar, it is the lead government agency that's tasked with accelerating our digital economy. So MDEC's been around for 25 years. We are celebrating actually on Sunday our 25th birthday. Uh,
Wow.
and so, driving that organization to make sure that we can celebrate 25 more birthdays thereafter. But MDEC basically is the lead agency as far as digital is concerned for the country. And prior to that, I spent my career in New York City. So this was never part of the plan. So memang bukan, from it was not my ambition to actually be here, but one thing led to another, and I got the call to take on this role, which I thought national service is something that you cannot pass up.
Mm.
So I took on this role. But prior to that, you touched on it. I spent my entire career in the U.S., in New York City in particular. Um, a large part of that was actually with J.P. Morgan.
Right.
I graduated from University of Pennsylvania, the Wharton School, and came back first to Malaysia after I graduated because I was an SO scholar, and but decided, okay lah, I want to be over there in New York. So I broke my bond and went to New York City. 1 year basically became, you know, 18.
Short,
So
18 years. So
yeah.
before you continue with the interview, I just want to welcome whoever out there. Just say hello to us. Let us know that you are tuning in, where you are tuning in from. Are you in Malaysia or are you outside Malaysia? We have here Teacher Ken. Teacher Ken here. He is a parenting trainer. Hi, Teacher Ken. Tomorrow I'll be attending his class. And he has amazing class, Surina, parenting class. Now kind of nowadays a lot of parents stay at home, go crazy. Now he's teaching us how to have our sanity at home. And then we have actually, huh, Sarah. It's look like she's
Hi.
she's
Hi,
also from
Sarah.
she's actually one of my oldest friend too, Sarah, and
Is
she
that
third
right?
one. Yes,
Wow, that's
small world.
exciting.
So she's
Cool.
telling hello. Okay, so Surina, now I just want to find out how. Let's go back and rewind to your younger days. How was it during your childhood? How was your dad like, and how was your mom like? What are the things that they taught you that, or that you remember that brought you, make you who you are today?
Yeah. So I owe a lot to my parents in the sense
Mm,
that one of the values that they were always trying to instill in their children is independence.
right,
I think it stems from the fact that my mom was the eldest, and
right,
so being the eldest in her family, like she was typically independent, and then she would tell the stories of when she was growing up. My grandmother actually had so she had divorced and then married, divorced and married. So she had a few husbands, and
right,
so which meant, my mom was always finding opportunities to like, hang out with friends. So she was very independent in that regard. And then my father also had a very big family, and he was like the middle child of a very big family, and so
right.
always left to his own devices. And so they both had this spirit of independence, and so that's one value that they always instilled in the kids. And so as kids, we tend to be quite independent. And I remember growing up, um, now need no way we would let our kids do that. But going
Right,
to
right,
school, my siblings and I would take public transportation to go to school. So
oh,
public bus at the age of 9, 10. Um,
oh,
that was what it was like growing up. So this sense of independence, and I think that sense of independence, and also also trying new things. It was also
right,
coincidental that my mom was
right.
a um, uh, she was a lecturer at a teachers training college, and
Huh,
and she happens to be like the teacher in charge of Club Kembara, so the adventure club. And so growing up, like we would always go on these as part of Club Kembara,
right.
trips to Taman Negara, to
Yeah,
Pulareda, and
yeah.
and in doing that, would try snorkeling and all these other things
Huh,
that
right.
um, would encourage us to try, to try something new and be
New.
adventurous.
Be
So I think
adventurous.
that spirit of independence, that spirit of, let's just try this because I think it could be fun,
Mm,
was how I remember growing up.
wow. So, and how, okay, I've got a picture of your childhood here. Is that,
Yeah.
which one is you? Down, this
So
one.
I am like the one right smack in the middle.
The middle.
So
Oh, okay, okay.
yes. So this was taken actually in the US, when my dad was doing his master's. So I was first introduced to America as a 5-year old actually then.
Ah, bio. And then your sister here?
So
Yeah.
that's my sister Sabrina, who is now in Australia, and then that's Amri, who you know, and my little brother Shul.
Okay, oh, great, great. And then you have a picture here with your brother, Amri.
That's right. So this was at the old Subang airport. I think we were about to send off an uncle to go study overseas or something.
Okay, so the first two of you is like we have like a pairing, right? You and him, and then the other one, the younger one also, right?
Yeah, but it turns out it ends up being I'm close to my sister, and then you know
Oh, the boys become the boys.
exactly, yes, the boys
I
are the boys.
see. I see. I see. Okay. So so tell, because I was reading in one story about one time when you were in school. I mean, which school did you go to?
So I was here. So I grew up in Tamanton. So I went to Damansara Jaya. secondary school, and
Uh-huh.
then I went to MRSM typing after that. So my last 2 years of high school was actually in MRSM.
Oh, you went to boarding school.
I did. I went to boarding
Wow.
school. I went to boarding school. Yeah.
Which MRC?
So the one in Taipei. Yeah.
Ah, Taipei. Okay, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So it's interesting. Like I actually got a scholarship to go to College Tuanku Jaafar, and I decided not to go to KTJ private school, and I
Ah,
went to MRSM instead.
why did you decide to do so?
Yeah, because my dad has this thing. Like he always encourage, before you make a decision, you should go and see. And so we went to go visit the school. I
Right.
went to visit I spoke to the principal, and I remember, in my speaking to him, he was talking a lot about the equestrian program, and less so about the physics program. And so that made me feel like, okay,
Uh-huh.
he really didn't talk about the physics and the chemistry, and so that made me decide to go to Mara Junior Science College.
Wow. And that means from you were 15 or
So that's so Form 4 and Form 5.
from 4 and 4, 5, 16 and
Yeah.
17. Yeah, yeah. Wow.
So
So,
it was a very completely different experience, like
yeah, yeah,
KTJ
yeah, yeah.
versus them.
And you thought that you have a better education because more on education based in MRSM rather than that. At that age, you already know what you want.
Well, yeah, at that point, I thought that okay, I really need I was kind of studious, right? So I thought, okay, I should really go to a school that focuses on science, and so that I can make sure I get good results and whatnot. And so I made that decision. But I think in hindsight, there's never the perfect answer for anything. It's all about experiences. I know a lot
Yeah,
of people that went to KTG, and they had a completely different experience. But to
yes,
me, I look back, I think MRSM was very eye-opening, and it exposed me to a lot of different people,
mm.
um, students from all over the country. So yeah, it was good.
So before we go on, I just want to say hello. So this is my mother, actually, Surina. She is every Friday. She always come and listen to my show. She's
Hello.
my friend. So she said, "You look beautiful live than in picture. Thank you for being on this
Thank
show."
you. Thank you.
And then we have also Adam Lim. He's also listening in from LinkedIn here. He is a seahorse scientist and goals mapper.
Oh wow.
So, and then we have also Dr. Nuruliana. Hi. Thank you for joining us. She's also listening in from LinkedIn. Sarah said you look cute. I think it's her first time seeing you in the baby picture. Her own boss kan tengok baby picture. Okay. So after I was reading one of your article. You were saying that we talk about your resilience in childhood. Okay. So at which part that you started having this resilience? Do you remember any kind of incidents?
It's kind of interesting. One of the things that I remember doing, because a lot of the things about when I was growing up, I kind of decided to do on my own. The idea would come about, and then I would do it. Except for one thing. This is one thing that my dad said. Oh, you should sign. I'm signing you up for this class. It's going to be good for you.
Right.
So he signed me up for Taekwondo. And I remember I was 9 probably, Taekwondo, and so we all did it, but I was the only one that stuck to it. So I got a black belt. I was a junior belt, Sampai junior black belt in Taekwondo.
Oh, don't get play.
Yes, don't play play. Yes. Um, but that's one. I think in the early days where, because it was one of those things where you sometimes don't feel like doing, but you have to go, and thereafter, you learn the moves and everything. So I think that helped. But I think the other thing also, so that was more physical, and it's discipline, right?
Right.
I think the other part about resilience, I have to say, was at MRSM.
Okay.
So at MRSM, this is boarding school, and um, boarding school. I had never been to a boarding school before, and then more importantly, I never been, um, um, with other, um, you know, it was very homogenous in the sense that it was all Malays.
Yeah.
Whereas the school that I came from was predominantly Chinese,
Right.
Damansara.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it was a little bit of an adjustment, actually, to be honest with you, with
Yeah.
me. And plus, it was I come from KL, and so
Yeah.
sometimes there's this perception like, oh, orang KL, that
Yeah.
sort of thing. So there was a lot of it took a lot of adjustments and getting used to, and I think that was a lot of life lessons around number one, staying true to yourself, finding your support system. So now, my MRSM friends, we're still friends until today. Um, and also, learning that, sometimes people can be harsh.
Yes, I totally got you, Surina, because I went to Tunku Kusha College at
Mm.
at 14 years, at 16 years old, also from
At
4 and
16,
from 5.
yeah, so from four, yeah. So you can relate, but yeah.
Definitely can relate to you. Because and then there's a difference between of how they treat the one who went there from Form 1 until, different treatments as well. For me, I felt like they were a bit different way. They treat the one who came in later in terms of the school, and the management of the school treat it differently. Segregation lah. So
Segregation, yeah.
yeah, there was some segregation. So I don't blame the old from for lama kids for trying,
Yeah.
all this culture or uh, to show power lah or that kind of things. Kan.
Yep.
So
So
that's
we had less of that because everybody came in at the same time because only Form 4. We had the dynamic,
oh
yeah, because it was Form 4, Form 5 only. So we didn't have Form 4 Lama, Form 4 Baru.
oh
But we had the dynamic of, orang Banda, orang tak Banda, and
oh
and and we had the whole, you know, boy versus girl thing. Uh,
ah I
and
see.
macam-macam lah cerita-cerita kisah
Ah,
lama.
kisah-kisah lama.
Yeah,
That
the
actually
naming and all
that's the
that.
memories that makes us as well, right? From that
Exactly.
boarding school, that experience, I think I reluctantly go. I think my mother was ex-TKC. She wanted me to go, so you know, somehow I did well in high school. I was in Asunta, so and
Mm,
then and then I somehow I did got the results to. So I had to choose either MRSM Police or TKC.
okay.
So, but I ended up in TKC because it's nearer to KL.
Neural. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I just also want to say hello to Vivian. Hi, Vivian. Thank you for joining us today. She is a certified financial planner.
Ah,
Uh, there's a number of my classmates here. They are classmates in terms of learning our LinkedIn courses through this other company called Popcorn. So this
yeah.
Popcorn, yeah. So Nina,
I
she
met Nina, yeah, and I
yeah,
follow
you
her
met
work on
Nina.
LinkedIn.
So both of us are graduates to Nina's classes.
Ah,
So
fantastic.
Sarah was asking, who is Surina's most inspired in a person and why? Ah, that's her first asking. Sarah asking you. So yeah.
Okay, so there's a lot of people actually, but when she asked, because I'm thinking about my young days. So when I think about my when I was younger,
Mm,
who were some of the characters that inspired me?
right.
So of course, there's leaders. And so growing up, Tun was always a very inspirational person. And I think for all of us of that generation, with
Right.
Vision 2020 and whatnot.
Mm, yeah, yeah.
But separately, I think one of the characters that that I was very inspired by is actually fictional, believe
Okay.
it or not. So
Uh,
I read this book. Maybe some of you may have read it. It's called The Prodigal Daughter.
mm-hmm.
Uh, so Prodigal Daughter is this modern day story of macam Romeo and Juliet lah, because there's these two business rivals,
Uh, uh,
um, and so somehow their kids end up being together. But the main character, Florentina Rofsnovsky Kane, is her name,
you still
and
remember the name? Who you?
yes, yes, yes. Well, her character basically is she's a woman. She goes to Radcliffe College, which is basically Harvard, and this was supposed to be set in like the 70s, whatever. But she ended up being um, uh, 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 first she worked for her dad's company,
Huh?
but then, because she fell in love with the rival punya son, had
Huh?
to leave, and so they both like ran away and had to figure out, okay, so how do we do this? So she ended
Huh?
up being like a business person, entrepreneur,
Huh?
and very brilliant in what she was doing. And then, long story short, last is jadi president of America.
Ooh. Ooh, that inspired you.
Yeah, but what I remember, the one scene that I thought was like, wow, that was brilliant, was I think it had to do with there was something that they needed to submit. I think it was for like elections or something like that. And the deadline, so they were like scrambling to get the deadline, which needed to be submitted by like 5 o'clock or something. And then they terlepas the
Huh?
deadline.
Huh?
And everybody thought, okay, so they lost it. But she was saying, wait a minute, it's 5 o'clock in LA, but it's not 5 o'clock yet in Hawaii, so we can still get it in. And so, and then like, ta-da! And she solved that problem and she won the day. So that character was very inspiring for me growing up because I thought, oh wow, she did all these things, and that's pretty cool.
So how old were you when you were reading that book?
Yeah, I think it might have been like after SPM, so 17, 16.
17. So what
Yeah,
went through your mind? What did you dream of? Did you inspire to be anything at that point of time? Did you have a dream already?
I don't think I had a dream, but I think it was one of those characters that made me see that, oh wow, like she did this, and she was also, very creative in solving problems, and uh, yeah, she kind of did it all, which I thought was
Yeah.
really cool. Yeah, the
Yeah.
fact that she was like a corporate person in her dad's company, and then like became an entrepreneur thereafter. Went through some really hard times too, because there were times when she had um, uh, when they went off. I don't think
Yeah.
they ran away together.
Yeah.
They had to figure things out on their own. So
Mm.
yeah, so it was very inspiring to see to a character, a main character like that of a novel,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's doing something. Because most of the time, prior to that, I think a lot of us during that time we were reading stories like Sweet Valley High.
Sweetie. Yeah.
Kan?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
so, so that's completely different. And then to read about this character, I thought was really cool.
Wow. Okay. I was reading an article that was saying about you when you were younger in school, that you were in a debate team or something, and your teacher. Tell us about the story. Yeah. Okay.
That's right. So this was in MRSM. I can't remember whether it was from 4 or from 5, but I was a debater,
Yeah.
and um, and I remember that the national MRSM debate competitions were happening,
Right.
and I was excluded of the team. I was on the team, and then they took me off the team
Mm.
only because
Mm.
they wanted the teachers then thought, no, we're a co-ed school, and so we should have a co-ed team. And although the current team has 4 girls on it, we should just put a boy there to mix it up. And so they were going to, I was being removed from the team because they wanted a boy on the
Boy.
team.
Right.
And so of course, I wrote a letter to the principal, and I totally forgot about this. My dad was cleaning out the house a couple months ago and found the letter, and reminded me that I actually wrote the letter. I reread back, and it's actually quite a diplomatic letter. I said, I think here are the reasons why I think it's important to have, why I should be on the debate team, and da 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 da. Da. Yeah,
Wow, that's just amazing. And then they put you back on the team.
they put me back on the team.
So
Yes.
what happened to that boy out of the team?
Oh, he was the standby. Yeah.
He was just a standby.
Yeah,
Wow, that's
because
awesome.
you always have the alternate in case something
Yeah.
happens. Okay, so he was traveling with us as well, but ultimately I got to be the one to represent with the other debate team members.
Bravo. All right. So after you got your SPM, and then what happened next?
Yeah,
Then
so
you go to high school.
yeah, so I knew I wanted to go overseas
Yeah.
because I had read this book, right? And I was
Yeah.
thinking business is all in the US is more exciting. Business, you have to go to US for business. You don't go to UK for business. Go
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
US for business. And so I knew from the very beginning that I wanted to go to the US,
Mm.
and there was a coincidentally that year, ESO was actually um, um,
Coming.
having scholarships for the
Yeah.
first time, and they were
Oh,
looking for people coincidentally that wanted to go to the US.
right.
So I applied for that,
Uh-huh.
and I got selected as one of four. So with that, I went to California to
Mhm.
do the pre-university program, and then from that, I went to the to the East Coast in Philadelphia.
Ah. So what were you studying in the US?
So I was studying. I actually, so the story of my life was always I don't know which one to do. So because in Marissa we were always about science, and I remember growing up, everybody used to say, "Hey, you're really smart, Surina. You have to study engineering, lah. The country needs engineers." I think we all heard that speech, right?
Right.
When we were growing up. So a part of me was always feeling guilty because oh, we should be doing engineering, and then but I really wanted to study business,
Uh-huh.
and um, University of Pennsylvania actually had a program coincidentally called the Management and Technology Program,
Okay.
um,
Oh,
which you basically take classes from both. So you graduate both from from the Wharton School, so business, and also the School of Engineering. And so I did a dual degree program at University of Pennsylvania at
wow.
Penn.
Oh, okay. So then you graduated with that, and then what happened?
So I graduated, and of
Mhm.
course, I graduated actually during the time when the .com was happening.
Right.
So people started to go into tech,
Yeah.
and of course, Wall Street was very um, 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 was hot then. Everybody wanted to be a banker, but I
Yeah.
reluctantly. So I stayed in New York for as long as I could.
Mm.
I was writing to SO saying, "Hi, can I stay here for practical experience, etc., etc." And they said, "No, no, you must come back to serve your bond because we paid for your university, so now you
Yeah.
have to work for us." I
Right.
was
Right.
bonded SO. So eventually, I came back to serve my bond
Mm-hmm.
with SO,
Mm-hmm.
and I joined their corporate finance department,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and I knew, I mean, reluctantly lah,
Mm.
um,
But you were doing technology and management.
in the finance part of it. So they
Okay.
say, okay, so we want you to do this finance part. So I joined the finance department,
Mm,
and I remember I was kind of like feeling, is this really for me? Because
mm,
the first day that I joined,
mm,
um, the department, I remember this guy was saying, Surina, we are so happy that you're joining us because you have just made our average age of this department, because corporate finance was with the tax department, yeah? You have just made the average age of this department 49.
oh my God.
I
So
was like, oh my God,
the oldies,
49. Huh?
mostly oldies ke?
Yeah, it was a lot of oldies because the tax department was also included in that number. And
Oh,
you can imagine tax, all the people who specialize in tax is like ang kanker sikit lah.
wow.
So I did what I could then, and I still that was good, great learning experience with still corporate finance, very exposure to global Exxon as well.
Mm.
Um, but it didn't take me long to start feeling itchy a bit, like to yeah. And I will, yeah, and I will share this story because like I think if there are young people that are out there listening, like this is one of
Right.
the pivotal life changing moments that I had experienced. So I remember when I joined SO, I was working. My boss was in her 40s and was not married,
Huh,
so she was single,
huh,
and because she knew that I was also single,
huh.
like she'd be in the office working and expected me to be in the office working as well.
Oh,
Because I guess you have nothing else to do, so you're working. And were we really doing work that was really necessary? No, not necessarily, because it's like edits of. I mean, you really don't need to be in the office until 10 o'clock every night. So I was in the office until 10 o'clock every night for SO, where everybody goes home at 5. So we were there until like 9, 10 o'clock. So anyway,
huh,
one day, and so she also happens to know that I was I had uh, when I was in the US, there was a certain guy that I was seeing,
mm,
uh, and now I was single and didn't even have a boyfriend.
mm,
So one night
mm,
she came in. I don't know what inspired this conversation. She came into my office. It was
mm,
probably around 9:30 or so, and then told me the story, her life story. So her life story was basically, so she had when she was in her younger days, in her 20s. So when she was in her, she also studied abroad in the U.S. and
mm,
fell in love with a Palestinian boy guy.
mm, mm.
And of course, this is like cinta terhalang lah. So you cannot,
Okay. Yeah.
there's cross culture and everything. And so they wanted to be together. They couldn't be together. So she came back to Malaysia and didn't pursue that. Yeah.
Right.
So this was before the days of the internet and everything.
Yeah.
Years passed by, but they were always, like thinking of each other. And
Right.
then, like 20 years down the line, suddenly she decides, Killa, I think I'm going to go over there. And then it's okay for me to be like second wife and everything. I'm fine. I'm going to go.
Huh.
So she decides, she boards on a plane to be with this guy. And then on the plane, she realizes, what am I doing? Like, I really can't do this. But she comes to her senses. And so she relays that story and she tells me, so she says, so Surina, my thing with you is that know that when you're young, you can take chances. Do the things now that you think that you want to do, that you need to do, because that slight trajectory, that slight decision, it will take you on a different trajectory.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you might see, and so therefore, I know you want to go back to the US, and so if I were you, I would do it.
Wow.
Yeah, so she shared with me that story. This whole, make the decision now. You don't know because you can always, because when you're young, but that decision that you make takes you on a different trajectory. You never know where you're going to be,
Yes.
And so
Right.
she said, don't be like me because I just followed, the expectation of everything, and then now here I am, and blah 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 blah. And so she said, go for it. And so that was actually so I remember coming back that night, me and my friend, we were just staring at each other like, oh my God, really? Wow. Yeah, but that gave me the courage to actually leave. I mean, to pursue my intention, which is to leave Malaysia and go work in the US. And working in the US would have meant I am repaying my bond. So I have to pay back ESO 380,000 bucks.
Wow. So
Yeah.
what did
Um,
you do then?
but because the inspired by you have time. The benefit of you is that you have time. So go for it. So I did. And of course, being the financial person that I did study finance, of course.
Ah,
I
yeah.
ran like I did the numbers lah, like so many different iterations. How is this going to work
Yeah. Yeah.
to keep myself comfortable? But I also remember thinking, after running all the numbers and making this decision, I realized that, we always ask ourselves when we're making a decision, we always ask, what's the worst thing that could happen? So that's why we look at risk,
Yeah.
so we look at the downside risk. And of course, Sarah was my chief risk officer. Yes, I was looking at risk. Um, but we're pre-programmed to always focus on the downside risk. But I
Right.
stopped to ask myself, like, okay, what is the best thing that could happen? What's the best thing that could happen if I make this decision? Now,
Right.
that's the part that I think we never spend enough time on. We never say like, if I make this decision, what's the best thing that could happen? And you think and you think and you think and you think.
Yeah.
So a life lesson that I tell, that I share this story because I feel, when you're making decisions sometimes, you
Mm.
know take that chance, take that risk, um, because you have, especially in your youth, you have time, and then you never know. Like one decision that you make in your youth, can totally set you into a totally different trajectory.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Definitely.
totally different
So
trajectory.
yeah, definitely. So from there, knowing that what you want, or you did your risk assessment, knowing that okay, this is the possibilities, the great possibilities that will happen. So you've done the calculation. So what did you do next?
So yeah, so I decided to pursue moving back to the US. So I interviewed. So I leveraged the alumni network that I had from college, and so
On
they had.
that time there's no internet, kan?
Yeah, yeah, that time I did email
Ada,
already.
ada dah. Ah, ada dah. Oh,
The,
ada. Okay, dah ada.
we had
Okay.
email already back then. So
Yeah.
emails,
Email. Ah,
uh, uh, yeah, I networked and found myself interviews with these investment banks
mm.
and interviewed from here actually. So my first interview was here in Malaysia, and they were in New York, and
You mean by
uh,
phone call, or they came
yeah. So
here?
the first interview was a phone call, and then I did probably two of these interviews. I mean, like with two companies, and then I decided I will go over there on my own for second round interviews. So I self-funded like because I really wanted to go. So I paid for it myself because I didn't want the company to give the excuse of oh no, we're not going to interview you because we don't pay for flight tickets.
Yeah.
So I decided, I'm gonna go. So
Right.
I interviewed and um, came, and Alhamdulillah, I got a job offer with JP Morgan.
Wow.
Joined
Your
JP Morgan.
first job straight away, JP Morgan.
Yeah, so there were a few companies. Hi.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Good night, sir. Love you. Sorry about that. Uh, so here, oh, ma'am, Basala Krishnan. This is the mother of the two children that is
Oh,
going.
hello.
Thank you so much for joining us, Basala. Yeah, Surina was asking about you guys, and she watched the show when I interviewed you guys, you the whole family. And so maybe, and I was just telling Surina that Ascendance is doing something with MDEC right now, doing for their conference. So yeah, so then you actually funded yourself to go there. You get JP Morgan. Uh, that's just amazing. At that time, do you know any uh, other Malaysians that is in working in Wall Street?
There were few, but very there were like there was one other person that I know that was there, my school alumni. So he was there as well. But with working with bulge bracket big investment banks, no, there was really very few. I don't think there was anybody else then. So I always was on my own um, doing it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And for me, my motivation was if you say what was the inspiration, like why did you want to do that?
Right.
Part of me was I felt like it was almost like a challenge to say because um, um, growing up, so remember I read this book Florentina and it was all about business and everything, right? And then I went to a very to University of Pennsylvania, and so Wall Street was like the pinnacle of okay, that's like global, that is like world class. So my inspiration was really to say no, I can do it too. And so my intent was to prove to myself that I'm despite being from Malaysia, from
You
Tamanton, yeah, so I can hack it too. These guys think they're all so awesome.
you
Yeah,
can
only
be the prodigal girl.
yeah. So only you guys can do it. No, 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 no. I can do it too. So that was the spirit, and of course, the other reason was there's a lot of learning. I mean, like it's really you learn a lot of being a banker because that's a lot of and it really taught me how to be professional. So and then business, thinking about numbers, thinking about economics is a very well-rounded experience. So I was
Hmm.
there for quite some time. The
And
money's good too. You gotta
of
admit, like it was
course,
good.
and living the Sex in the City life, of course.
Yeah.
Did you meet your husband there, or when did
Yeah.
you?
So that was also the other thing. That was also the
Okay.
other thing. I um, so when I made this decision to move from Malaysia to New York, there was the push factor, Malaysia, you know, and then like nobody asked me out on dates, so there was actually that push factor too, and then there was a pull factor of New York, where okay, this is global, this is world class, this is there's a lot of things happening,
Right.
center of the universe. So I need to be there, so that was a pull factor, and then there was a catalyst.
Uh,
Um, Catalyst being the
yeah.
boy. There's always
Oh,
like the boy. Um, um, and but when I moved back to New York, I realized, oh, actually, no, 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 I don't think this boy is going to work. um,
ah,
and so I remember saying to myself, "Tak apalah, I will be cat lady for life. I will be at peace with that because yeah, there's no my life is over. Like there's no guys over here. There's some Malaysian guys over here." And one fine day, I had an afternoon. I had a night off from work, and I was really because I had no other friends. I was trying to find the only person that I could think of to go out with me for dinner and a show was my brother. He was always my default at orang lain, so I would just call him.
Yeah.
But I couldn't find him, Amri. So
Uh,
Amri was not available that night. Amri
oh,
was not available that night. I couldn't find him. So I was thinking, who else can I go out with because I really want to go and see the show?
right.
Um, and I thought, oh yeah, Amri's friend, that guy. I will call him. So I called Jazz, and
Ah,
that's how it started. Yeah.
so I'm gonna show a picture of your family and your life. Okay, here is the New York City that we
Yeah.
love. Oh my
So
God.
that is right smack in Midtown. So the that building over there is the MetLife building, very iconic.
Yeah.
And so yeah, so that was for 17 years, my going in and out.
And this one is where we hang out. With mana gambarnya tak keluar.
So yeah, so this one is Central Park.
Oh, you can see it. Oh, but I couldn't see.
Yeah, so
Is it
Central
out?
Park.
Ah, okay. And then this picture. There you go.
Yep.
Then you
So that's the family.
yep.
So this was outside. This is upstate New York, where we go from time to time.
And then this.
But yeah, and this is Central Park, very close to where we live.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh,
but
sorry.
coming back to that again, so that was also serendipity. Um, there's not a lot of professionals that there are not a lot of Malaysians overseas to begin with, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then, there's not a lot of Malaysian professionals that
Yeah.
are actually in New York City, and to meet Jazz, and we got along really well. So that is like fate, I would say.
Ah, and also Faith, their brother, is there as well.
I
Luckily.
know. Yeah. So it took us, it actually, so first, so he didn't know. So probably we were seeing each other already for like 3 months or so. And I remember, he would call sometimes. I would be on a date with Jazz, and then he would call and say,
Ah.
hey, where are you guys? Oh, I'm actually on the Upper West Side. Who are you with? Oh, with Jazz. Okay, great. I'm coming. I'm joining you. I'll see you in a bit. It's like, no.
He didn't know at that time, huh?
I didn't realize. Okay. But anyway, so it's all good. So it's all good. So that was many, many years ago, 20 plus years ago, 20 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm just gonna show some more pictures, and this is a picture of girl power and your kid. So that
Yeah. So New York City, so this was, I'm sure people remember the height of the Me Too movement. So there were many marches that was happening, and we also participated in that as well.
yeah. Oh, look at this and what you guys are
Ah,
doing.
yes. So this is yeah. So the story. Um, so part of my life story is the fact that I think when you talk about pivotal moments, and so one
Yeah.
pivotal moment, of course, is just making this decision to
Yeah.
go to the US,
Yeah.
uh, and so then the career happened. One thing
Right.
led to another, and whatever, and one fine day. Um, I was going for my usual checkup,
Right.
and the doctor noticed some anomalies. And so, follow up check, and lo and behold, I heard the most dreadful news that one could ever get. It's the horrendous words that says, yes, it's malignant. So in 2015, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. So this
Wow.
was after I had my third child.
Mm.
I didn't notice it at first. I just thought that it was a lump related to breastfeeding.
Right.
Turns out that it was that. So this was, of course, one of those things. You talk about resilience.
Yeah.
It was a complete surprise. But it's one of those things that you need to deal with. And so for me, of course, um, um, I think one of the I take pride that during that time, I felt lucky actually that I was able to be, I was in New York, and so there's really great care in New York. Some of the best hospitals are actually in New
Mhm.
York City, so that gave me a lot of comfort. Um, yep, a lot of comfort, and um, yeah, and
Yeah, very.
so um, comfort. But the it was easy to get to feel down, but I remember just focusing on all the things that were around me that kept me going. And one of the pieces of so I had a conversation with this friend of mine,
Mm.
who's amazing. Like she does a lot of work in the leadership space, in the women's empowerment space.
Yeah,
But one day, she said, um, sometimes in life you have to look at why things, instead of saying, why is this happening to me, which was what I was doing in the very beginning, because I was saying like, wow, it's so unfair. Why is this happening to me? This is so like da 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 da.
right, yeah,
So Claudia's advice was, she said, um, why is this happening for me? There's a reason things
right,
happen. And so
right,
ask yourself, why is this happening for me?
right,
And so with that perspective, um, uh, that's how I a complete life shift actually at that point.
right, yeah,
Because prior to that, I was the typical, type A kind of person. Plan, 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 plan. You must have a plan. Everything must go
right,
according to the plan, and etc. etc. And then this
right.
is really one of those things that really shakes you to the core, because you realize that you can only plan. Plans are just plans. God has a bigger plan for
Yes,
you. And so
right,
therefore, coming out of that experience, uh, it's really, why this whole I have a whole new sense of gratitude to
right,
life.
yeah,
So why is this happening for me? I think that was really just a wake up call to say, no, there are other things that's more important, and there's so many things to do um, in life, and so that was a pivotal moment. So that picture just now was just me with the kids, because I had lost my hair at that point, and we were practicing. Oh, this is how you wear the the
Celebrate.
hair thing to cover yada yada yada. So we were pretending like we were going for a party at a Maharaja's house or something. So
Wow. And how did your kids handle it at that time? And then I'm sure your husband also had to. Did you have a
yeah,
helper also? Yeah. How
yeah.
was it going on? Yeah.
So we had so that's the thing about cancer, and I'm sure I mean, one of the things that I realized when I had cancer was that um, everybody has somebody that they know that has cancer as well, because this
Right.
is how big, how pervasive it was. The statistic in the US was that it affects one in every 8 women. I don't know what the statistic is here like, but I would imagine that it's quite
Right.
comparable. But anyway, so it's something that affects the entire families. It's not just the one person. Um, so I feel very lucky that I have a very strong support group.
Mm.
So during the time that I went through treatment, my parents, my father came to visit. My mother-in-law stayed with us too, to help us get through the motions. We explained it to the children. We said, it's bad cells. Mommy has bad cells, and so you got to take care of the bad cells. Um, but yeah, so but we were as open as possible to talk about them, to talk to them about it.
Right. Wow, that's amazing that you have great. Your family uh, actually flew over to give you the support that you needed.
Yeah, during that time, and work was actually, so I took time off from work completely,
Mm.
because the job that I had then was quite intense, and so it was hard to do, because some people go through treatment, they work and actually they go through treatment, but to me, I decided to completely focus
Your
on health. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yep.
Just like Simone Biles, she knows when it's time to just cut off, and
Yeah.
just take care of herself. you know
Yeah.
Her mental health for her is more important. Otherwise she will have a mental injury if she continues the way she will continue in Olympics. So you
Yeah.
knew when to cut the line and take care of yourself. And
Yep.
that must, you know I think, because you had this pivotal moment understanding what's important for you, right?
Yeah. And taking it with a sense of gratitude, because there's always a reason. So like I said, in the beginning I was grumpy, it was like, oh, this is so unfair, like miserable, but really, start to think things happen for a reason. So why is this happening for me, not to me, but for me? So what
Yeah,
is the lesson? What is the learning? And I think from then on, it's really shifted the way that I think about things, not as
yeah,
permanent. Because I think that the typical, I was a typical corporate person before, like thinking,
yeah.
okay, after this,
Next,
there's
next.
always next. But that experience actually helped open up my eye to experiencing different things. Life is short, and so from then, I came back to work thinking that, oh, I'm back to normal, but there are things that there was still adjustments that I needed to get to do, and then so coming back to work, and then thereafter, leaving JP Morgan also thereafter, making a decision to say, no, you here in this whole tech and innovation and digital world, they say disrupt before you're disrupted. You need to constantly scale and be outside of your comfort zone.
Yeah,
So I made the decision to leave JP Morgan to go off and try new things. Again, thinking, now would be a good time. So I took a year off, not really a year off. I left JP Morgan with the intention of pursuing being in the tech in the real tech scene. I was exposed to technology in the prior role that I was in,
yeah.
um, but I started, so I was an advisor, an investor, and really being with entrepreneurs, which was
Right,
very,
right.
very exciting.
Yeah,
And that experience has really shaped my whole perspective. And I bring all of that experience to the role that I'm in right now. So,
wow.
so
So
it
yeah,
comes full circle, actually.
yeah,
So it's
yeah.
interesting,
But,
right? Like,
yeah, that's amazing. That because you actually left that. I mean, like you say, everything happens for a reason, and it's always a pivotal moment for you. One pivotal moment when you were working in ESO, another pivotal moment after you were in the US and working in them, JP Morgan, and and how did it come about? Like this to come back to MDEC, I mean to come back to Malaysia, this offer to you, how did it come about? I mean, is it
ah,
like so jauh
yeah,
like that kan?
true,
Macam
yeah.
how did you
So,
give it the
so
ride up,
yeah. So to be honest, there was a time that so in the early days, especially when the kids were young, we were always thinking we will come back, we'll come back, but um, around actually around Najib time lah. After Wolf of Wall Street came out and they said, "Oh, he was a banker. That's how he financed this." I'm like, "No, no, 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 no. There's no way Riza Aziz financed this movie, Wolf of Wall Street, from being a banker. He's not a banker, and I know that's not. That is basically my tax money, right? My parents' tax
uh,
money right there that they're using to finance Wolf of Wall Street.
right,
Uh, and so I think then, and a lot of the folks in Malaysia was actually also telling us, Nula, stay over there,
yeah,
better opportunities. So we decided to stay over there.
yeah,
But GE14 actually changed that.
right.
So I think you were probably still overseas at GE14, right? Or you were here already?
I already here, yeah, I came
You were
back
already
here.
here. Okay. So anyway, so this whole wave of change actually um, inspire. a lot of us that was overseas actually. I remember during this time, like there was a trending hashtag like Jom Balik or something like that,
uh,
because there was a sense of change.
yeah,
Never really thought about it, and but we were observing,
right,
and we saw, they were hiring professionals into
right,
the the government, like
yeah.
all these new um, all
Just
these
asking
new
you. Yeah,
roles. I
right.
remember Dr. Hasnita Hashim was an astrophysicist or some like that.
Yeah,
And putting
yeah, yeah.
so we thought that that was an interesting thing. That was interesting development that was happening in Malaysia,
Yeah,
and
because I think in Malaysia, everybody is calling all the experts around the world to come back and serve the country, right?
that's right.
Uh,
And so I was one of them. And so I was interviewed. I was part of a process. Like they made me write a paper, actually.
really?
Um,
What was it like?
so they gave me 36 hours to write a paper to say, what would you do? What's your vision for MDEC? I'm like, huh, MDEC? Apa MDEC? Okay. So of course, I know. I have a plan. Uh, and so I had to drop everything and then write this paper, which I had planned on posting, actually,
Uh,
on LinkedIn. I'll post that because
yeah,
it's our anniversary. um, uh, but yeah, so I wrote this paper, really
yeah,
not thinking I'm just gonna, best case scenario, they'll read it and maybe they'll get some ideas and I'll be done with it.
right,
uh,
right, right.
but they liked the paper, and 2 3 months later, I came back for interviews,
Mm,
and then they offered me the role, and I started. So for seven
wow.
months, yeah. So for 7 months, I was in Malaysia while Jazz and the kids were in New York,
Yeah,
because the kids were in school, and it was such a short
yeah,
time span to
yeah,
make that decision. So I was living out of a suitcase
yeah,
with my aunt, while Jazz was tending to the kids on his own
yeah,
as a sole parent.
yeah.
And then July 2019, we were all reunited again, and here we are.
Wow, bravo. But I tell you what, you came back with a bang because I still remember when you came back and after that you guys had the tech week, MDEC.
Yeah, so
Boom,
we did
boom,
that.
boom, 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 boom. It was like wow, it's just amazing.
So it has
Yeah,
been nonstop.
yeah,
So it's 30 months now. Uh, and yeah, so the last thing I'll share, my intention all along was to make sure. Oh yeah, so that's a picture from the first town hall that we had at
yeah.
MDEC. Um,
Wow, this
First
understand.
town hall. And so I met the team for the first time. There
Mm-hmm.
were probably about 380 people or so inside that auditorium.
Right.
And it was non-stop. So it was a big adjustment. To some people, you might ask, what was it like going from New York, and not only
Yeah.
from New York to Malaysia to government, public
Right.
sector. um, and so
This is your
so
yes. This is your
yep,
team. Yeah.
this
Yeah.
was the zaman masa boleh keluar kan, boleh buat party semua. So this was
Oh.
our year end 2019 year end celebration.
Mhm.
So we had a theme that was supposed to be like a carnival, and that's why everybody's dressed that way.
Wow,
And
amazing.
yeah, we had a band. MDEC has a band, and
So
so
you play, you sing. Wow,
hey, yeah.
I got to hear you sing one day. So
So
yeah, how was it like adjusting coming back to Malaysia? I mean, 17 years you were in New York City, living the fast lane life, and then in Malaysia, it's completely different. In the government,
yeah, so it's different. So first things first, like I think I think back to the experience that I had after leaving JP Morgan. So that year was meet all about meeting new people, being in environments that I've never been in, like meeting crypto people for the first time, in the middle of Brooklyn.
Right, right, right.
And so to me, when being thrown into that situation, like I remember going to the first meeting in Putrajaya, it was Minister punya town hall,
Right.
and I remember like, KSU and KSN apa beza dia? Like literally, like I had no idea. I was still like learning, and then meeting people like, are you important? Who are you? Are you? So, but this feeling was already familiar in the sense that I had, as in the US,
Yeah,
but it was feeling being in an environment that is uh, uncomfortable. So being uncomfortable was something that I got comfortable with, and the rest of it was being open to learning. The learning curve was really steep, of course, because MDEC is such an important organization. It's a very complex organization. Not many people fully appreciate all the things that we do. There are a lot of things that we do behind the scenes as well, in
yeah,
addition to our programs. Uh, so it was a very steep learning curve. But ultimately, it's a lot of the facets of management, of organization, of leadership, um, of digital, of technology, of change, of transformation that I
yeah,
had in the prior roles really helped as well. And then the other thing also that helped with the transition, like the MDEC team itself, it's a very welcoming, and so that helped make the transition um, easier. But it was like very intense. Like I can tell everybody that I don't think I've worked as hard in any role or has had to like adjust and like really learn as quickly as possible in any role than this role, because it's very complicated. Organizationally, it's an organization of 500 people, so
yeah,
it's a large organization in itself. And then the role that it plays, the fact that it's in between private sector. So the expectations are like the industry,
yeah,
but we're also plugged into to government. So with the ministries and everything. So we're in this two worlds,
yeah.
uh, and of
You have to
course,
put your, you have to be putting everywhere. Your hands has to be everywhere.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
And then of course, 2020 was a crazy year because
yeah,
when you talk about disruption,
yeah,
disruption all around. So we had change all around, change in the government, change in the world landscape with COVID, change in how we had to work. So there's a lot of change, and the fact that digital, it's digital by default. So how do you get everybody ready, and how do you get
yeah,
people accomplished? But to me, the important thing was that the mission always from the very beginning, from the onset, is number one, to make sure that digital becomes a national agenda. And so alhamdulillah, like now we've got our blueprint and everybody embraces this. So digital is a national agenda, and we've got, we know what we're supposed to do, and we are actually, we being like the big we.
yeah,
So we're moving forward with that, and then building an organization that is resilient itself.
right,
So open to change, because all organizations now, we have to continue to adapt,
yeah,
because how do you continue to adapt? And that's exactly what we're doing. And yeah, we'll just go from there.
yeah,
So it's
yeah,
so
yeah,
I look back,
yeah,
25 years of MDEC and also 30 months at MDEC. I feel pretty good about what we have done so far, and hearing stories of impact stories,
yeah,
like how I love seeing on LinkedIn testimonials of people who say, oh, I did XYZ program, or, you guys are doing a great job. So that feels very satisfying.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
great. I saw even like MDEC giving the free programs, who wants, especially during the pandemic, you're allowing people to get on the programs for free. And that's just amazing because people were at loss, but at least you're teaching them how, not just giving the fish, but teach them how to fish,
Yeah.
you know. So I think you have actually put a dash of Surina in MDEC. The resilience of Surina in MDEC. You have put a stamp there. And what I can sense that you became the prodigal girl. You did all that and come back. Not president of Malaysia, but at least president of MDEC, CEO. Then that you had your own story there. But my mom is asking here. Okay, where is he was saying you have a very interesting story. And how is your I hope you are completely healed now. Are you completely healed, or did you came back with, did the cancer come back, or did it, how did it?
Yes. So um, I am. So there was a recurrence last year. If you follow my Instagram, yeah, there was a pivot in my story, and so, but I'm going through treatment right now. So inshallah,
Wow, you're still going through treatment right now while working?
while working. So yeah. So but all
you're,
good.
you're just super amazing lah. uh okay, so how is it going through this treatment now?
There you
This
go. So
Yeah, is this, you're doing treatment here, is this here?
yep. So this is here, and yeah. So I went in actually for I thought I was having a cough,
Right.
and turns out that it was something else, and so Alhamdulillah, we did the necessary things, and yeah. So we're it's under control.
But for a woman still going on treatment, you look awesome. Look at this. I want to show you this.
So that's the thing. Like,
Magnificent.
thank you, thank you,
Yeah, that's
thank you.
you. I love this.
Thank
Yes.
you. So I share because, like, there are many things. Like if there was a message that I would share, there's many amazing stories of people that are out there. Like sometimes you don't know what people are going through.
Right.
So to judge, you shouldn't judge.
Yeah.
Uh, you never know. You never know what people are going through. And so especially with things like illnesses, and some of
Yeah.
these things are, you can't really tell.
Yeah. I can sense it's not easy for you. I can't imagine now you're still going treatment at the same time, and managing and that and managing your family, you know. But Alhamdulillah, you are back here in Malaysia. You have all the support that you need from your family as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
What do
So
you
yeah,
think? Yeah. You saying?
so we do, life is always, about moments, and so we enjoy the moments that we can, and then we go from there.
Yeah. So, what do you think you have learned from all these experiences that you have? Like you mentioned, there's something, the reason. What do you think you have learned?
So I think that you cannot plan everything, and so if you can have frame, but things just happen, and you just have to go with the flow sometimes. When I was growing up, I used to think big, plan well, and so there is still an element of that. But also know that there is a bigger plan for you. Like God has a bigger plan, and sometimes you just have to to have that conviction. So for me, it's always I come back to gratitude, and it's really important to make sure that you enjoy life, right? Because it's so short. You never know.
Yeah. That's right. I think, Surina, you shared amazing stories tonight, and I'm sure your story tonight inspire a lot of people. This is really behind closed door that you are really sharing, yeah, being vulnerable with us and sharing your story, and you're still standing tall. And so proud. I'm so proud of you. You're a woman with a skill, I would say. And I really thank you for sharing your stories tonight. Yeah. Maybe is there any message for the audience? Maybe we can share. What are the legacy that you want to leave behind? What are your
No,
goals? Yeah.
so what I'll share, because most of the time, um, when you listen into talks like this, you're always trying to like pick, how did she, like how, how and so sometimes when I watch movies also, like I feel, oh, she must have it all figured out and everything. But sometimes it's all about going through the moment. And like recently I watched this movie about Marie Curie, Nobel Prize winner. And so you would have thought, wow, she must have done all this research so she could win that Nobel Prize. But when you watch the movie, you'll see she was literally just going through it, one thing at a time, day by day, just attending to what it is that she's focused on at that time. And so that's the approach that I now take as well. It's like, you can't do what you can, make an impact with the people around you, but don't be too hard on yourself. Sometimes, I think when I was younger, um, I was pretty hard on myself. You're sometimes I'm like the worst critic. Now I'm like, no, it's okay. You're doing a good job. That's fine. That's okay. Um, yeah, and then I also feel one of the techniques that have helped me actually in going through this. It's like, imagine your life as a movie. And so this movie is interesting. There's always background music, and it's really up to you to make the movie interesting. So make sure you have a good playlist for your movie, and then that should be good to take care of everything that comes your way.
Wow. So, my mother have a question. She has, with all the experience you have had, what is your most important aspiration that will make your life more meaningful and that will make a difference to others?
Yeah, so I think that instilling in everybody the sense that they can, and so you know they can, because sometimes it's all in the mind. Like, I think most of the time people stop doing something because they think that they can't. And so, like, of course, Liz, you're the exception, because I've read your life story too. Um, um, but most people, they just follow. And so my aspiration is to create the next generation of leaders, where you can make a change, you can do something. I mean, at least that's the spirit that I'm actually, all the 500 people at MDEC, I'm trying to like encourage them to say, yeah, there's process and everything, but you can lead from where you are. You can create change from where you are. You can, because that's what we need. Like, especially Malaysia needs leadership. Malaysia needs leaders. Malaysia needs change agents. And so my
Yeah.
aspiration is to continue to, however way I can, share whatever I can in creating that next generation of leaders.
And you're doing that right now anyway, and doing a great job at it. So what's next for you think?
Uh, I don't know. So it is. What's next? I would say same life philosophy. Just focus at whatever I'm doing right now, and ultimately, it's all about having fun and making an impact. But I think that right now, all of us, we are literally all about. And at least for me right now, it's about, because we have no idea what's going to happen, right? Tomorrow, especially in Malaysia right now with MCO, with COVID, with, so it's literally all about enjoy taking, making the best of every day, and
Yeah,
then you know keeping
exactly.
spirits high. It's because these are really, really tough times that we're all feeling right now.
Yeah,
So
yeah, exactly. And I think I've noticed, especially that there are different groups of people. There's some groups of people like, oh, it's la la la, they're really like that, right? But some like, okay, let's make a difference, and they can do it even from home,
yeah,
and it doesn't matter. Even from home you can make a difference in many
yeah,
ways, and I believe we can do it, and we
yeah,
not only in Malaysia but across the world as
yeah.
well.
So I
Yeah,
wanted to specifically, I know dah lama ni,
yeah,
this is
yeah,
longer
yeah,
than I expected.
yeah.
I wanted to specifically commend you, Liz. I think it's great what you're doing, and that's part of the
Oh,
reason why I'm actually on this call, because I don't do stuff like this. But the fact that you don't take no for an answer, and you're just out there just trying. Oh, I'm gonna try it myself. And last year, when we was it last year or the year before,
two
you
years
were
before. Yeah,
yeah, when you were starting your startup, and then I just felt like, yeah, go, because most people think that starting a company or starting something new is something only young people can do.
yeah,
But
yeah.
like you, I've said go, because there's there's possibilities in everything, and so I really applaud you for doing that, and then now even experimenting and growing this. And so kudos to doing pushing the boundary of what you're capable of.
Thank you, Surina. You're part of my journey. Just remember that. You're part of the journey, and then that actually, push me. Okay, let this could do, and make me. That tech week was just amazing, and I hope we will have this tech week now. Now we're going to have tech week. We are having tech week, right?
Now we're Tech Week. So let me do a quick plug to all of you
Yeah, yeah.
listening. So it's Malaysia Tech Month, which
Malaysia.
kicked off yesterday, actually.
Yeah.
But go to our website, mdec.my, and you can find details on Malaysia Tech Month. It's a whole month long of curated content. All the thought leaders, we felt that it's important to showcase what the possibilities are, so what our ecosystem has to offer, and also bring the latest and greatest content as far as tech, 4IR, skills, and everything. So every week has a different theme. Next week we will be geared towards Malaysia as a investment destination. So, but there's really good content, and they're all it's free and available by replay. Like this morning, there was a very interesting session which I missed. I'm going to get it over the weekend. It was this amazing 7-year-old programmer,
Wow.
seven, seven. So pretty impressive. So yeah, do check that out. Malaysia Tech Month.
Thank you so much. And what is what you say? Oh no, not that one. Okay. My mom was saying you are a brave and courageous woman. I'm so proud of you, Surina. You have black belt since you were small. You got it tough. You got tough. And then Basala is saying you are inspiring indeed. Yep, you look awesome. All right. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining in today, listening to Surina. And Surina, I know we're supposed to be 1 hour, but we try to keep it up. But you have so many amazing stories. All about like I say, it's a casual, and then I think I had so much fun talking to you, and I hope you can come back again one day, maybe a different thing, part of our panel about a certain issues. Ke mana tahu kan?
Yep, Manito, inshallah, we can do that.
Yeah, and then thank you so much, everybody, and please join us. Join me again tomorrow at 4 p.m. with Jonas here on the financial health series, and come again next week on Friday on behind closed door with Mama Liz, like we have tonight. And next week we have a different guest. And thank you, Surina, for being my the. I think you are my highest profile guest, and thank you. I'm so honored. Betul. I like, wow, seronok. I'm very honored. Thank you so much, Serena, for joining
So
us.
keep doing what you're doing, and then and everybody stay safe
Yes, stay safe.
and stay
Okay.
home.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Bye.
Good night.